has it. And they are on the left side. And now here's Korea trying to go for a cross. Nope, he is bottled up on defense. Oh, and looks like there is a flop job by Iraq. He's covering his face when, you know how it works in soccer. When someone falls down, guy covers his face to make it dramatic or try to really sell it to that referee.
Oh, absolutely, dude. That's one of the that for me, that's one of the worst aspects about international football, the flopping, and the absolute horseshit that some of these athletes do to milk a foul. It drives me batshit crazy.
And yet these teams get rewarded with more stoppage time. Like stoppage time now, we see it's like 8 or 9 minutes extra, which is insane. And yes, of course, the Iraqi is okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, both players fell. And both of them, from Korea and Iraq, they both try to sell the flop.
Right.
Like, I don't really see it. Like in basketball, I see a flop, but actually free kick, I'm trying to figure out where the free kick was awarded. And I wonder if the referee is trying to decide who should be booked for the flop job on both sides, or whether it was a foul. They're showing Kim Min-jae. He is the captain for Korea.
Absolutely.
He plays for Bayern Munich, I believe. It looks like Korea is getting the free kick because the flop job was like, that was just too obvious of a flop. And now Korea has it reset.
Here we go.
And now here is a long ball. And Korea is now double teamed. That's the tough thing about soccer. You can't really see all these players from a distance. And the fact that I don't really cover it that much unless it's World Cup situations.
Sure.
And now here's a long ball, and looks like Korea lost the ball.
Yeah. So,
Also, notably,
I was going to say the interesting thing about Iraq is for the development of the Iraqi people, they're a pesky little team. But that being said, quality-wise, this should not really be that hard of a test for South Korea.
the thing is, Korea actually does have they actually do have difficulties in competition against the Middle East teams. And now they're having a tough time against Southeast Asian teams. Like, they had a tough time against Vietnam, Malaysia. And the funny thing is, they're most known to be more dating hubs for American men than soccer themselves. Vietnam is a hot target. Malaysia, Philippines, and Indonesia and Thailand is actually, I think, the one that everyone talks about.
But the interesting thing though is, and again, South Korea has a lot of quality. And here they go. They won the ball back in the middle. Now we're pushing up the right flank right here.
Yeah, they are.
But the crazy thing one of and this is the same problem with a team like Norway, where they have two very good world-class players, but they always seem to lose because they don't have a coach that understands how to put the players in the best possible positions to succeed. And I wonder if here we go, ball in the middle.
Yeah, ball in the middle, and looks like Korea might have an opportunity, but Iraq is really tightening it up. And now here's onto the left side, and here's a kind of a cross, and there was kind of an opportunity there, but actually they get to reset, so there's still a chance for Korea to score this one.
Ball in. You can see how Iraq is sitting in a low block right there, and South Korea. That's the interesting.
Oh, and now
thing.
here is possibly a shot, and they're resetting, but Iraq is really tightening it up. And now here is a cross, and that is defended. And
by the way, what minute are you in right now?
I'm on 20.
Yeah, I'm on 20:33 right now.
You got a 10-second differential.
Yeah.
And this live stream thing is a lot better than what I'm used to.
Oh, absolutely. So
I'm curious I'm curious if they would. I think they do even Major League Baseball on this website.
Which website are you talking about?
The one I'm using, the one I gave you.
Oh, okay, I got you.
No,
Yeah,
but
no,
you're
I'm watching
correct. Going back to the Norway stuff, that yeah, Korea also has the same problem. They have all this talent, and I'm going to say it. They're one of the most talented teams in Asia.
Yeah,
but also
sure.
organizational wise, they are one of the worst.
Yeah, the crazy thing is Jurgen got a lot of crap because he didn't live in Korea, didn't necessarily pay attention to the Korean leagues. But that being said, he wasn't hired necessarily to do that. He was hired to get the best out of the squad. But that being said, when you go into the Asia Cup and you lose in the means of the way that they lost with all that talent, you're not going to last long. That was too bad because I thought Jurgen can get the best out of them. So South Korea goes with a native South Korean coach. That's fine. But that being said, it's going to be the exact same thing. It's like you have a window right now in order to qualify for the World Cup, and you have to take advantage of these matches right here. And that means, like, especially against a team like Iraq, that's going to sit there and try to park the bus against you. And use the counterattack. So it's going to be indicative for South Korea to utilize quick through balls on the counterattack. Try to get in front, balls over the top of Iraq's low block.
Man, I mean, and Hong Myung-bol, he is the coach and former star from the 2002 World Cup, and also unfortunately a failed coach from the 2014 World Cup. I was heavily against that decision. I mean, for Korea's success historically, going for the foreign coach is usually the way to go. I mean, I didn't even like the Jurgen Klinsmann decision because, I mean, one thing I can say about Jurgen Klinsmann, other than the fact that he's famous for the United States, in the 2006 World Cup where he coached Germany, he literally had the team of golden generation. He had Miroslav Klose, Mikhail Ballack at his prime, Oliver Kahn, which he didn't even use.
Yeah,
hosted in the 2006 World Cup in Germany and still lost to Italy. Now, granted, Italy was a fantastic team, but still, they still should have won that World Cup.
Well, and then you also look at what he did with the U.S. in 2014, with arguably the best U.S. team ever assembled, and was able to navigate a group of death and get them out into the second round, where they nearly beat Belgium in the round of 16.
Nearly did.
Yeah, the narrative that Jurgen can only win with loaded teams, kind of speaks against that. Being able to get that success with the United States, getting to a Copa America semi. But that being said, one of the things that I want to know from you though is what is the state and the status of the K League? I mean, are they producing the next wave of Korean talent?
That's the thing. Like the problem with Korean players is a lot of the young Korean players already know that. Like they already know they don't really have much hope for the K League. Like maybe they're attracting some kind of talent, but they're mostly like rejects from other foreign countries that couldn't really make it to their own league. And or they just or maybe some just want to play in Korea because they like the food, I guess. But aside from that, like Son Heung-min, for example, when he was growing up, like they knew, like I think his father knew, it's like, nah, you're going to Germany, especially when he was already heavily recruited. Yeah. So a lot of the best Korean players don't even play. They don't even develop in the K League.
Yeah. Well, and that might be, I mean, true. The summary, Yang Min Huk, who is an 18-year-old phenom who's currently playing in the K League. He signed with Spurs, and he'll be joining Spurs in January. But I also think that's indicative of a healthy league as well, too, especially when some of your best young players are going to a Spurs or they're going to the Bundesliga. That's indicative of them being able to develop within an academy system and being able to graduate to a first team. One of the things that really hampers Mexico is not allowing them to at least get first team time within Liga MX before they used to be able to sell them overseas, and now they're staying and not developing. At least they're following the blueprint of most every other league in the world, where once they graduate to the first team and they're looked at by other teams around the world, they'll move on to better pastures. But that's only going to help the national team.
Exactly. And who is the player that is playing for the Spurs for Korea?
It's going to be Yang Min Hype.
How comes? Oh, and here is Korea on the attacking end, and already stopped by Iraq and had a little moment there.
He plays for right
now. Can't even spell his name.
It is Yang Min HYUK. For him, he plays for Gangwon currently.
Oh yeah. He's an 18-year-old kid.
18-year-old kid. And he's actually lighting the K League on fire. But that being said, I mean, going to Spurs, that's going to be.
Oh wow, he did. Yeah, you're right. He did sign a 5-year contract.
Yep. And the narrative is that he's going to be the next Sonny. But that being said, there's only one Sonny. But when you look at it, Sonny's 32, so he's not getting any younger.
That's good to know. I gotta see what roles he had.
Mm-hmm.
He's only played. So he's played on the U17 back in 2023. He led them in the U17 Asian Cup. He led in 2023, led them to the runner-up, so second place.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But the problem is, it sounds like he won't even smell an opportunity for 2006. And this is what I say about Korea. They got to play their young talent. You
mean 2026?
2026. I say 22.
You said 2006.
Wow. I said 20. Yeah, for 20. Yeah.
Yeah. But actually, that's maybe, but maybe not. I mean, he's going to be joining Spurs in January. And depending on the time on the field for the rest of this season, certainly next year he's going to have a role within the Spurs first team. And so that's going to be 2025, 2026. And by the end of that, going into the 2026 World Cup, if he's match fit and logging first team minutes for Spurs, I would probably assume that Yang is going to be within South Korea's full senior national team.
Who knows?
I would expect, especially if a guy's getting first team minutes in the Premier League.
Well, hopefully he doesn't end up like Park Chu-young from Arsenal, because if you remember him, he literally rotted in their bench. It was pretty bad, and I didn't even like him that much. I didn't even think he was that good.
Well, it all depends on how they use young players, right? Are they going to put them out on loan? And then depending on if they're going on loan, where are they playing? How much first team minutes are they getting on loan? Is going to be indicative of the way that they develop. Here we go, South Korea.
Yep, we're going for a corner kick right now by Iraq, and now here is a cross, and Korea heads it off.
That was a bad pass. Here's a shot.
Yeah, and Korea gets out of that. Well defended by Korea, though.
Yep.
But the other thing, if you've heard of Lee Gang-in, he plays in PSG, and that is a huge shot by Iraq, and doesn't really go anywhere except into the stands, possibly. But yeah, Lee Gang-in was also a rising star. He was mostly rotting in Valencia, so he didn't really get much out of that. I mean, he had to grind through Valencia to get to PSG. But the other thing was, Korea didn't really use him until literally the second game of the World Cup against Ghana. And when he had his assist, Korea's like, oh, we actually have a rising star. And I go, yeah, I knew that. Since 2019, in 20 World Cup.
I think that might be a South Korea corner.
I see that. Yep.
No, but that's the thing. It's like you go to Valencia and you get first team La Liga minutes, which is fantastic, and then you get the move to PSG. That's when you get that Qatari money, man. That's letting everybody know that you got yourself a nice little piece of talent right there, because usually PSG doesn't buy mid-table players, man. They like big names.
Which is why I think 2026 World Cup should be a great opportunity for Korea. Like, this is arguably their second golden generation. Their first golden generation, of course, was 2002 by default. Yeah. But this core should be just as talented. But It's always held back by the Korean Football Association. And here's the thing: if you thought the Mariners ownership was bad, take K League makes John Stanton look like a guy that would be as passionate as like a Dodgers owner, the Yankees, or Steve Cohen of the Mets. That's how bad it is.
Is the Korean Football Association, are they are they corrupt, or what
Oh,
do they have?
They're corrupt. They're heavily corporate run. So Mariners, they have the Nintendo influence as if they were owned by Nintendo. But the Korean Football Association is owned by Hyundai. Hyundai's also known.
They got the ball on the right flank. But that being
said, now here's the attacking end, and this is a big chance for Korea to capitalize on this one.
Yeah, they're
but
struggling.
Iraq is immediately they are, and Korea usually has huge struggles against Iraq.
Yeah, they're mightily struggling against the Iraqi press to a point where they're basically being pushed out into the flanks right now. The whole middle of the park right now is you can see them. You can see Iraq implementing the mid block as well too. So I like the idea of when they were originally counting with balls over the top. That's the best way to defend, best way to break a low block. But that being said, it's also indicative of Korea's speed.
It's but it goes out of bounds, and I think can't really tell who is going to get the ball.
Sure. That's the thing. You mentioned something about how the South Korea FA is influenced by corporate entities. I mean, the same thing is with the U.S. men's national team and their corporate sponsors. The only problem with the USMNT is that the soccer federation, the U.S. Soccer Federation, has Don Garber sitting on its board, who obviously is the commissioner of Major League Soccer. So there's a lot of influence for Major League Soccer players to be on the national team, which is why, when they hire a guy like Mauricio Pochettino, who has no ties to Major League Soccer whatsoever, it runs counter to the narrative that, U.S. Soccer just wants Major League Soccer players on it, because obviously for the financial gain and the showcase for Major League Soccer. And I'm wondering if that's the same with the Korean FA, if there's a strong push for, K-League players.
There is a huge push, unless you're like Son Heung-min basically, or Kim Min-jae. Everyone, K-League has just as much of a chance as any young prospects, and Korea has missed out on several young prospects. For the 2018 World Cup, they missed out on opportunities, and same thing for 22, where there were players like when they finally gave a couple some chances, like Lee Gang-in, it was like, well, no, duh, you should have played them. Like Lee Gang-in didn't even get to be part of the senior team for the World Cup qualifiers, not even one match.
Like, my whole theory is, like, if you're going to play domestic players, and especially if you're not in a Premier League or a Bundesliga or, one of the top flights in Europe, then play your best young players, play your best young rising stars, because that's the best way you can showcase your league, right? The last thing you want to do is play journeymen, like K-League lifers, guys that are like 28, 29, unless they're very good. But you would rather go with the 18, 19, 20-year-old, because at the very least it showcases your young development. You know what I mean?
That's the thing that Korea struggles with. Like 2014, they made the same mistake where they played washed up players. It was Chung Sung-young, who was not even qualified. I question him being a goalkeeper. Oh, it looks like we got a yellow card going up against Korea.
Yeah, you're basically attacking spikes out, hits the ankle right there of the Iraqi player right there.
Reminds me when David Beckham, he got in '98 World Cup, he got red carded for
against Argentina.
Yeah, because he put his spikes up when he was arguably knocked down.
Yeah, that right there wasn't full spikes up. But that being said, you're essentially spikes out attacking ankle, and you're not necessarily playing the ball. That's going to get carded every single time.
Yeah, especially in this day. And Iraq has really been, I'm pretty sure this is going to be at least 5 minutes of stoppage time based on how Iraq has really been selling the flops.
The crazy thing about this match is, you're looking at the Korean attack. They're struggling in 1v1 situations. Their passing isn't exactly the best right now. And, they're trying their best to break the Iraqi low block. and they're having struggle with it. But the other thing is they're also struggling against the Iraqi press. They can't seem to maintain possession for a long stretch of time, and that's disconcerting considering Iraq can pop you on the counter. So you got to that's one of the things that Korea should do is readjust and get as many people as forward as they possibly can, because right now it's like one or two runners, and that's not going to get past it. That's not going to do it.
And now Iraq's on the starting end, and as if they're trying to get to their first World Cup since 1986. And the last time they made the World Cup was when Saddam Hussein was the leader, and he had huge amount of influence on that team. And if you want to get an idea of how hard Iraq played, just look at their results from the 86 World Cup. I think they only gave up 4 goals, and there was a reason for it, because they were literally fighting for their lives. Because if you didn't win a game in Iraq...
There was a lot of controversy surrounding the 86 World Cup, because a lot of people thought that Mexico was getting the benefit of some of those calls. They were the host nation. They get to the quarterfinal. And that was the same thing. If you remember, there was a lot of talk about the 02 World Cup as well, too.
Yeah, with South Korea.
With both South Korea and Japan advancing deep into the tournament, there might have been some preferential calling for the South Korean team. I actually just thought I thought they just had a good World Cup.
My thing is, it's like, if Italy was like boasting about themselves, like, oh yeah, we're the best team, you should have handled all those controversial calls. If you're look at Qatar, they had calls going for them the entire time, and they got obliterated in all 3 games. So
right, well, I mean, that's a little different, because I think the Qatari national team wasn't even. No,
the talent level's not even there.
Yeah, they weren't even a thing 4 years.
And now here is Iraq with an opportunity. It looks like they have an opportunity to score. And they are resetting. Out. And now here is a cross, and here is a header. Oh, no. No header. That was a good opportunity for Iraq.
Yep, Iraq, that was a nice ball in.
And now, and now here is a shot and a header. Oh! When someone said Iraq almost scored again, they almost scored again.
That's bad defending. You got 1v1 in the box, and you're late on the, late on the defense right there.
That is the flaw I have. That's the problem I have with Hong Myung-bo, is his defense really suffers. And to get an idea of who Hong Myung-bo is, in case no one he is responsible for conceding the quickest goal in World Cup history, which is 11 seconds by Turkey, in the 3rd place matchup in the 2002 World Cup. So as much as Korea made history of being the first Asian team to make it to the semis, they also put themselves in history giving up the fastest goal.
And he's still on the team?
Hong Myung-bo, well, he was recently hired because the previous coach, Han Sun-ong, was an absolute disaster. And Han Sun-ong, if you just look at a picture of him, you can tell that he was a puppet for the KFA. But he got sacked real quickly, too, because of his disaster with the Olympic team.
There you go.
But Korea put him in a really bad spot. The problem happened was...
Go ahead.
The problem was Han Sun-ong was already the coach for the U23 Olympic team, and then they put him on for the senior team, so they had him taking both duties, which was usually tends to be unideal.
All right, so now we got to switch to the right. See if Korea can maintain possession here and get something on goal.
And I'll see if I could.
The crazy thing is, I was going to say that what drives me nuts is now there's this fascination with playing out of the back. Every team wants to play that Pep Guardiola, tiki-taka style, from building out from the back, and it's like, that's fine if you have the talent in order to do it. But with a team like South Korea, it just, they struggle mightily. Here we go. Ball in. Play it across the box.
And I've lost my feed.
Go!
Isn't that great? Because my feed is absolutely frozen, and Korea does score. And I already knew that because this guy played spoilers. Nice job, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was, it was a good ball through the 6-yard box. They found the left mid right there, who played it right back into the striker, who just taps it in. good goal, good ball movement right there. And now that's going to take some pressure off South Korea.
Yeah, it will.
With the goal up. And I'm wondering if, here's the weird thing, right? Like, I'm wondering if South Korea is now just going to park the bus and try to protect the 1-goal lead. He was 100% onside. It was a good ball across the box. Good pass in. Good shot. That was terrible defending right there by Iraq.
Good job, Iraq, but we'll take it.
Yeah, good goal.
As if I missed, I literally missed the entire thing because my thing froze. Now, and it froze again.
Look at passionate Bella in the chat room. She's going ham sandwich in the chat room with the
just saying hi.
Eyes. Hi, passionate Bella. And then the guy whose name I can't read, Korean guy. Korea got to defend their league 100%. And now he's saying park the bus.
I mean, I don't necessarily agree with park the bus all the time. That's what Korea did in the Brazil World Cup. As soon as they scored, they parked the bus and they gave up a goal within like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna play it on my phone.
Mourinho, right? So, the crazy thing is that Korea should continue to fight for that second goal, and then once you got a nice little comfortable 2-goal lead, then you can park the bus. But with a 1-goal lead, and we're still in the first half. Nah, you don't want to park the bus.
The only thing I'm looking forward to in the World Cup is I don't have to deal with other websites for streaming games. That's the one thing I'm looking.
Are you watching the Korean broadcast?
I am, yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually working better on my phone, so I think I'm just gonna go off of my phone. And now Korea is on the attacking end again as number 22.
Here we go. Good D. I'm watching the broadcast on a website I usually watch international soccer on. Here we go. So Korea, there we go.
Korea's on the attacking end. I got this one, and they're on the left side, and looks like there is going to be a foul.
Here we go. The interesting thing about Korea is like they don't drive, they don't all the way drive all the way down. It seems like their wingers are hugging the touchline. Here we go.
Looks like there was an offsides call.
Yeah, yep, exactly. Flags up. It's like that's cool if you're going to hug the touchline, but make a play down by the 18-yard box and put a ball in. Yeah, he was way off. He was about a good full body length offside.
I remember we were talking about 2002 World Cup. I think I can probably show it right now because there's not really much going on. I'm trying to find it. It was Korea versus Italy.
Mm-hmm.
I guess here it is. I have it. I just found it. It's obviously only a minute because it's a YouTube short, but when I made this video, and this was around the time of the 2022 World Cup, so many Italian fans went on full offense. They were offended by the video because all I said was, yeah, the game was controversial, but there was one moment where Italy could have erased it in just this one play, and they messed up. As looks like we got an opportunity. No, it's opportunity for Iraq. Let's see how this goes.
Yeah, let's watch that short at the half.
Yeah. And now here's the kick. And that is blocked by Korea. And it's going to be a 3-minute stoppage time. A little bit surprised by that. I was expecting 5. I was pretty close.
Well, here we go. Iraq on the free kick right here. Nice little spot there for a set piece. Let's see what Korea can do here.
Now here's
good
Lee Gang-in. And he gets it to the middle. And it's resetting to Lee Gang-in. And it's still being reset.
There's the switch. Push forward, young man. Nope, didn't do that.
It's 4:46 a.m. As much as I was dreading to wake up for this, I was also excited at the same time. And is Lee Gang-in again.
When you told me about this, I was like, this actually sounds quite fun.
Honestly, this is more fun than the Mariners game because the Mariners game was torture.
For for all the U.S. men's national team streams that I do for Major League Soccer and things like that. It's very rare that I get to watch, the Asian side of things, which is actually kind of nice. I like to see how other national teams function, and I like watching their style of play.
People would ask me, like, what's your favorite time zone to watch a World Cup game? I say the Asian time because I don't have to, it never conflicts with my work schedule. The only cost is I have to wake up around this time for it.
Yeah.
But there are some Asian games where the game's at 10 p.m., which is I can live with that.
Yeah, like tonight it's US versus Mexico starting at 10:30, so I'll be up doing that one.
To answer your question, I know you asked me that. I will not be there because I'll be at a Bible study.
Ooh, a Bible study.
I do it every Tuesday.
Wonderful, man. That's awesome.
It's going to be out of bounds.
Hope you have a good time.
Best part is the food. It's like Hogwarts Feast.
It's 8, so it's 8:46 right now in Korea.
It is now 8:48.
Look forth into it. There we go.
And for halftime, yep.
I was going to say, the only problem with the feed that I got is there's always some pop-up, like every 20, 30 minutes, there's a pop-up that shows up on the screen. So you got to X out of the pop-up. And
I think that's why they charge for membership, so you don't have to deal with it. I think that's the idea.
Yeah, but I don't pay for membership.
I think Korea must have really lenient copyrights, unlike United States. United States is like extremely strict. And we are at the halftime, as Korea did score earlier, so they do have the 1-0 lead. I have to say 1-0 because it's soccer. And here we are at the halftime, and I do have a video for the Steve.
All right.
And this is about the 2002 World Cup controversy. I called it Korea versus Italy debunked.
I'm way behind though. There's the halftime whistle right there.
There it is.
In the 2002 FIFA World Cup, South Korea and Italy squared off in the round of 16, where Italy had a 1-0 lead, and then Korea equalized near stoppage time and won in extra time. However, it was also notorious for being one of the more controversial matches in World Cup history due to referee bias towards Korea. However, there was one moment where Italy could have erased the entire controversy alone.
Absolute bedlam around here now. But Italy with a chance to come back, and Vieri! That is the miss of the World Cup. Christian Vieri is going to be haunted by this image.
Especially with Christian 100%. Vieri. It's like, I think had he scored that goal, no one's talking controversy. Everyone moves on.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? So you have a wide open look at the net and you sky it the other way. It's and that's the interesting thing, right? Because it's Italy. It's Italy, right? And it's like that. Those things typically don't happen with Italy. Usually those chances get buried. Well, back in the day they did. And then obviously you saw what happened in 2006 when they came back to the World Cup. But that being said, though, you're absolutely right. Had he scored that goal, which easily should have been scored, we're not talking controversy at all.
No.
And we're talking about an Italy win because they take the lead in that moment and they probably hold on.
And a couple more things. I think if the roles were reversed, where if Italy were doing the thing and the World Cup was in Italy, it would also be brushed away so easily. But because it was Korea who made all this insane run, of course everyone was like, "Oh yeah, Italy got screwed over."
Yeah. Well, but it's also see, that's the thing, right? It's in a lot of global football fans, the idea that South Korea would advance even on home soil hosting it, right? Because South Korea is not a traditional football power, right? So when it happens, a lot of people are quick to say bullshit. You know what I mean? It's easy to do it. People like a good controversy, but that's the thing. It's like Italy didn't take advantage of their chances. It happens.
Italy didn't, and
that's football.
It is. I'm trying to think other things about it. I think that's pretty much it. And the funny thing is, in that 2002 World Cup run, the teams that Korea beat in order or played against in order in the knockout stages, 3 of them in the same order. Those 3 teams also won World Cups after that. Italy won 06, Spain won 10, and Germany won 2014. And I actually thought when they played because they played Turkey in 3rd place, I thought Turkey was going to randomly qualify for 18 and win the World Cup, but unfortunately Turkey just happens to be in the European Conference. Like they're always
thing, though. I was going to say, right? So these things happen, right? Especially in major tournaments, there's usually something that just doesn't go a team's way, right? Like if you remember back in 2002, in that same tournament, the United States could have advanced to a semifinal had it not been for a blown handball that didn't go their way.
Yeah,
right?
It was.
There was a handball that against Germany that didn't get called. If it gets called, maybe the U.S. advances. Same thing in 2014. They had their opportunities in the group play stage. It was against I want to say it was there was against Portugal in the group stage where they had the opportunity to take the lead. They couldn't convert easy chances. And then again against Belgium in the round of 16, Clint Dempsey had an opportunity to equalize, didn't take advantage of it. Same thing with Chris Wondolowski. Like these things tend to happen in major tournaments, and it shouldn't be overblown. That's my point. Like these things happen to every football federation where either it's a blown call or they just miss their chances. And in the case of Italy, it's like, Crimea River, Italy. It's like, there was the cross and he had an open look at the net and it just goes off the wrong side of his foot.
And no one talks about that. And in the comments, and you should check out the comments, there are people saying, well, the ref would have put up the offsides flag anyway. Or actually, they did say that. And I looked at the replay and I was like, I didn't see any flags go up at all. And the other one was like, well, it's really hard with game adrenaline. You don't play soccer. You don't understand it. It's like, yeah, but it's Christian Vieri. He's supposed to do that. He was one of the best players in the world at the time.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's like, you just, that's the thing. It's like in those moments where you're pressing forward, looking for the lead, or you're looking for an equalizer, and you get those type of looks. Those are the chances that you're supposed to bury 10 times out of 10. Right. So to not do it and then have the audacity to call foul after the fact, like, oh, the refs just wanted South Korea to win. It's like, that's illegal, bud. And if there was actual concrete proof of match fixing, not only would FIFA be under fire, which they should because they're corrupt as hell, but the South Korean FA would probably receive a ban. You know what I mean? So it's it's convenient to call BS. That's all I'm saying when somebody messes up. In the case of Italy, it's convenient. It's like, dude, just shut up.
And now Italy is one of the laughing. And now Italy is one of the laughing stocks of Europe now.
Yeah, they did. They're having trouble qualifying for the World Cup now.
Yeah, and it was just 2010 and 14. They had problems just competing, and now they can't even make it.
Well, the interesting thing is, it's their development has suffered, right, to the point where now they have to rely on dual nationals to come in and try to fill the gaps because their ability to create center forwards, their ability to create good central attackers and wingers is just not there. It's not like what it used to be. And we're not just seeing that with Italy as well too. We're seeing it with Mexico. We're still seeing it a little bit in the United States as well too. So it's not just an Italy issue. But that being said, to the victors go the spoils. I mean, it is what it is. So
I think now Germany's having their problems too. All of a sudden,
Germany. Germany.
They used to be the most fearful team in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I think Germany ended up holding on yesterday against the Netherlands, but the crazy thing is, like, it's the big three in Europe: England, France, Spain, and then you have the second tier, which is Portugal, Germany, the Netherlands, maybe Italy. I actually would probably put Italy on the third tier of European teams right now, but
it's crazy because
What's
In the
going on
90s and
over
2000s, they were the powerhouse. Yeah, what's going on where?
What's going on in the Asian Federation? I mean, outside of South Korea, who are some of the top teams? I mean, I know Japan. The Japan's a pretty good team.
Japan is a really good team, and same with Iran is usually up there, Australia. But when it comes to World Cups, like Iran and Australia basically end up doing nothing. So it's really Japan usually that does it, and Japan recently has actually had more World Cup success than South Korea has.
Yeah, I forgot that Australia is in the Asian Confederation. I thought they would just be in Oceania with their buddies New Zealand. I always forget that Australia is in the Asian Confederation.
Yeah, they are. And I think there was a matchup in the 2002 World Cup qualifiers where Australia played against the America Samoa.
Yeah.
31-0, and I think that partially played a role on why Australia, on why they were somehow allowed to go into the Asian conference, because I guess it wasn't fair for everyone in Oceania. I gotta look that up. Why did Australia move to AFC? Okay, so Football Australia hoped that the move would give Australia a fairer chance of qualifying for the World Cup, while the A-League clubs to compete. So that's okay. That doesn't really explain why did they.
I would also think it's a better opportunity to compete against better teams, because Oceania doesn't have good teams.
The sad thing about the Oceania Conference, even if you make it out of qualifiers, you still have to play in the playoff.
Yeah, you got to play in the playoff to get in, which is fine because I'm 100% for that. Because there are certain confederations where you just can't give them an automatic qualifier, right? So it's like that's cool. New Zealand wins Oceania. It's like, yeah, but who do they play? No one. At least Australia has to play Japan and South Korea. But at least there's some competition, or it would be like Australia is qualifying for the World Cup every single cycle, because all they have to do is get past a bad New Zealand team. But what's interesting though is I was reading this a couple days ago that for a country like Indonesia, and I think Indonesia's got I want to say it's got 5 million people in that area. They have one of the worst national teams in the world. And I found that kind of surprising, because I would think that they would have the wherewithal to boast a good national team, or at least a competitive national team that can compete in the AFC. But for whatever reason, they're kind of like China. You know what I mean? China's got 5 billion people, and they can't produce a good national team.
Well, not only that, they spend a lot more money and invest a lot more into their product than South Korea does, and yet they're probably not even going to make it to the World Cup.
Well, they had to shut down their football spending. There was a time there where the Chinese Super League was buying every single star that they possibly could, but they weren't getting the return on the investment. They were also having some of their billionaire owners that own companies there in China to buy teams in Europe. And then Xi Jinping put an embargo on that. And so all those owners ended up selling their clubs in Europe. There's still a few that still own clubs, but for the most part, they stopped. They had the Chinese Super League implemented roster rules where they were only allowed 3-4 nationals per roster. So a lot of those guys had their contracts terminated, and a lot of them went back to Europe. But they stopped. The Chinese Super League, a lot of teams folded, and the Chinese Super League stopped investing in stars to develop better Chinese players. But it just hasn't translated.
I'm looking at the World Cup slots. What?
I was going to say, plus China's a basketball nation anyway.
They are.
Yeah, they're a basketball nation.
Did you know that before I get into did you know, Oceania still didn't get an expansion for the 2026 World Cup but they get one direct slot. It looks like they get one direct slot.
Yeah, because the World Cup expanded, I believe, to 36.
30. No, not 30. 48.
48. Yeah, they expanded to 48. So yeah, I'm not surprised that Oceania gets an automatic qualifier. That's funny.
Right.
In the comment section, the Korean guy said China sucks at soccer, couldn't even make it to the World Cup, and even if their life depended on it. And it's like, yeah.
Well, with the exception of 2002, only because they didn't have to deal with Japan and South Korea.
Right. Yeah,
and
they get the automatic bids. Yeah.
Yeah. The interesting thing about the 2026 World Cup is now third place teams actually have opportunities to advance. So even for Korea, again, they have to try really, really hard not to make it to the knockout stage because it's the round of 32. Like, Korea's got to at least be capable of being a regular in the round of 32, you would think.
South Korea should win their qualifying group every single World Cup cycle. They have better talent than any AFC nation. Like,
they do.
When you look at their talent, most of their best players are playing in the best leagues around the world, right? And that should translate well to the national team. But, that's the thing. It's like they just don't have the proper coaching, right? They settle for K-League guys that play far too conservative.
They do. And they always leave out actual talent.
Let me ask you real quick. How do you feel? I wanted to ask your opinion on this because this seems to be a topic that everybody seems to talk about in world football. Like, how do you feel about the Saudi Arabia 2030 bid?
Oil money, baby.
Yeah.
Drill, baby, drill.
Because a lot of people, unfortunately, they look at it as sports washing, as a cover up to, cover up human rights violations, things like that. And what Saudi Arabia did was they paid off other federations not to make a bid. Right?
Saudi Arabia is 2034.
Sorry, 2034.
And the other thing I'm noticing, well, here's my few takes on it. The reason why Saudi Arabia is going to host is because they have the freaking money to do so. A lot of countries would struggle. They're not going to be able to host World Cup unless you're like the United States, Mexico, Canada, South Korea, Japan. China could host one too if they want, but who wants to have a World Cup in China?
The thing about it is maybe it's just me, but I don't have a problem, right? Because that's just the way bids have always happened, right? Where a nation greases the wheels. You know what I mean? With their money, they grease FIFA, and then they go to other hosts of bidding nations and, give them millions of dollars not to make a bid. I don't necessarily have a problem with the Saudi Arabia bid, but that being said, it's like it can't be played in the summer months in Saudi Arabia. It's going to have to be Qatar.
They're gonna do a Qatar time again.
Yeah, they're gonna have to do it in December. Yeah,
which not many players do like necessarily.
I actually like it because usually most FIFA and UEFA sanctioned nations usually take the winter break to begin with, anyways, and so this is fine, right? And especially for players because the entire world stops for the World Cup, so it also gives players a nice little break from play. Being said, I like it because they're in mid-season form. They're not at the end of the season playing the World Cup when all these players would rather do, which is stay home and just kind of decompress. So I kind of like this because it actually gives players that big summer break.
And now we are back into the second half, and
here we go.
And the crazy thing is the game works better on my phone than it does on my tablet.
This guy in the chat says, "Imagine if the World Cup is in Korea again." I would actually like to see a nation.
More people. It'll be much more attended than it was in 2002. When it was 2002, sure. Korea and Japan were like, no, back in 2002, people were like, huh? What's Korea? I know Japan, but what's Korea?
Yeah.
Korea had almost no exposure back then.
I would like to see it back in the Asian Confederation again, whether that's a joint bid between, China, Japan, South Korea, whatever the case may be.
I think that's how it would be.
They, that's the thing. It's like it has to be evenly dispersed around the world, so fans, and even in non-footballing nations get to enjoy the World's game, because that's how you grow the sport in nations that maybe they're not as big as a footballing nation as, say, like England or the United States. Like I'm starting to see that in the Asian Confederation.
I'm starting to think that 2002 World Cup was partially the reason why Korea finally got their world exposure. And I'm not saying it was a direct reason. I mean, there's like there's K-pop, I guess
Sure.
their baseball, their food, but the World Cup I think had just a tiny little bit. Their run had a little bit to do with it.
But it also coincides with the growth of the K-League. That's what happened with the United States in 1994, off the back of a successful World Cup. Major League Soccer launched. That doesn't happen without the World Cup.
So power of sports does do a lot of things with culture. And a joke I always made was the easiest way to learn about culture and geography, watch the World Cup.
Yeah, for sure. Very good point, man. Very good point. And I actually think that having it back in Korea or Japan is, on top of just the beautiful football, it's also going to stimulate the economy in ways that normally it wouldn't. That's also the brilliant beauty of football.
Unless you're Brazil, Brazil really got the bad end of that World Cup for many reasons. One, they got humiliated by Germany, and two, they actually got economically
worse,
hampered.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Well, because you have to have FIFA designated stadiums, right, where they have to hold a specific amount of fans. And the problem with Brazil was their domestic stadiums don't meet the FIFA qualifier. So they had to build new stadiums. And where they built those stadiums, like some of them were in Rio, and that's where they should have kept it, just inside the biggest city in Brazil, right? But they built stadiums in Manaus. They built stadiums in areas where they didn't have a domestic team that could take over. You know what I mean? That can take over the stadium after the World Cup. As a matter of fact, the stadium they built in Manaus is now a parking lot. They just park cars inside the stadium. It became derelict. And it's like, that was the unfortunate thing about Brazil in 2014, was that they didn't logistically make it sound where if you all your footballing teams in your domestic league play in Rio, then keep the goddamn World Cup in Rio.
Rio and Sao Paulo.
In Sao Paulo, yeah.
Sao Paulo is the most, well, Rio gets the most name recognition, but actually surprisingly, Sao Paulo is actually the capital of the Brazil. Sure. And the other thing that didn't help the other things that didn't help Brazil is they also have a pretty unstable political background. Granted, it's better than Venezuela, but then again, anything's better than Venezuela. But Brazil's still pretty bad, and the way they're run, I'm still surprised that they haven't become necessarily a third world country yet.
And I think the weird thing is, let me look this real quick. The weird thing is, maybe it's this one. Yeah. So the 2030 World Cup, this is weird. So it's going to be co-hosted by Spain, Portugal, and Morocco. So Morocco finally gets a World Cup, because they've been bidding on every single World Cup for 30 years now. But it's also going to be in Argentina, Paraguay,
Uruguay,
because this is the anniversary of
100th anniversary,
of the World Cup. Where the first one was in Uruguay.
Oh, and here is an opportunity. Oh no! And Iraq has just scored on a bicycle kick, and they have equalized the game.
Yep, there's the play forward. It was a bad touch by a Korean defender right there. And
talk about a defensive meltdown.
Yep, and then so the ball gets played, ball up, and then there's the bicycle kick. Good goal right there.
Gotta give credit to that, because doing bicycle kicks are not easy.
Well, it's not just the bicycle kick; it's the fact that South Korea let that dude get into the box unmarked. That's that right. Like, it's like you're like, when that happens and he's all alone, he's unmarked. Where was the defender? Yeah,
where was the defender? Like, that's the thing about Homyonbo. He has bad defensive tactics.
Yeah, and so the inaugural game of the 2030 World Cup will be played in Uruguay, and then they'll have some group game stages in Argentina and Paraguay. But after the initial group stage with that, then it's going to be split between Spain and Portugal. There'll be I think there's going to be group games in Morocco, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Argentina, and then once you get past the group stage, everything's going to be in Spain and Portugal.
Airliners are going to be really busy that year.
Well, the thing what you got to do is, so make sure that you have all your South American teams in that World Cup. Make sure they stay on South American soil, right? So but also CONCACAF nations as well too. So the United States, Mexico, they play in South America, and then all your UEFA,
they'll play in Europe, and the Asians.
And then your AFCON teams, your Asian and AFCON teams can play in Morocco.
Yeah. Still think they'll play in Spain or...
I'm sure they will.
Yeah.
But then, the knockouts will be in Spain and Portugal. And I believe the final is either going to be at the Camp Nou or Bernabeu.
I would have thought Barcelona or Real Madrid.
Yeah, at the Camp Nou. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's Barcelona. And the Bernabeu is in Madrid. And I think I read that it's going to be, I think the final is going to be at the Bernabeu, which makes sense because it's even with a renovated Camp Nou, it's still in Madrid. It's still the quote unquote the sexy place to play.
Yeah. And now here's Korea. They are on the attacking end. Here's Hwang In-bum. And he's going to have a little bit of a cross. And now here is a nice little pass and stopped by the goalkeeper. Now here's the question. Where do you think South Korea would play?
I'm a couple seconds behind you here. I want to see. Say it again.
Where do you think South Korea would play in the 2026 World Cup? Like which countries and city? Because Canada, the only area I could see is maybe like Toronto and Vancouver. For United States, I'm going to guess Santa Clara, New York, or LA.
I would think that your Pan-Pacific teams are going to be playing in the Pacific Northwest. I know Seattle is also a host site for the 2026 World Cup.
Yep.
So I would assume that Vancouver, Seattle would probably, it's either going to be Seattle, Vancouver, or Southern California. I would assume that's where all the Pan-Pacific Asian Rim teams would be playing. Makes a lot of sense just because of travel. The U.S., I know that I was talking to one of my friends who's a part of the American Outlaws Seattle, and they're trying very hard to get a U.S. group stage game in Seattle, and I think the U.S. might have at least one group.
And now here is Korea on the attacking end, and now here is a cross, and here gets stopped by Iraq, and now Korea still has it, and they had it in the penalty box.
But yeah, I think that
they lose it again.
If Korea gets a bid to the World Cup, I would probably assume they'd be in the Pacific Northwest or in California. Here's a ball in. That was a good move, ball in, but it was to nobody.
Another bold prediction. I think it's going to be a huge opportunity for men to do a domestic passport bros in the United States. Because think about it. People from Colombia are going to travel. People from Brazil are going to travel. People from, obviously, Asia. So, reverse. I'm calling it the reverse passport bros. Going to happen.
The reverse passport bros.
Passport bros is a term where American men, they go to all those other countries to find their future partner. But for the 26 World Cup, they don't even have to travel for it.
They don't have to, man. They can get thirsty right here on American soil. By the way, quick question for you, sir. If South Korea gets a bid to this upcoming World Cup 2026, how do you think? Do they get out of their group stage, or do they get grouped?
I think they'll make it at the skin of their teeth at the third spot. They'll get the third spot at the skin of their teeth.
I think that it depends.
Only to barely advance.
I think that it depends on their group, right? Because you have to figure that the U.S., Canada, and Mexico are going to get favorable draws because they're the host countries. So I would assume that they're going to get favorable draws because usually the host city usually does, or the host country usually does. If they're in a group with if South Korea's in a group with Morocco, France, and
goodbye.
Yeah, it's in Ghana or something like that. It's where you can only see maybe one victory, and then maybe you play for a tie against something else. You might grab that third place spot, but if it's it depends on the draw.
Just give me a Slavic state. Give me any of the Slavic nations.
Yeah, like Serbia.
Yeah, give me Serbia.
Romania.
I'll even take Croatia. Wait, Romania was not a Yugoslavia though.
Yeah, no, yeah, but by the way, it's yeah, but if you're in a group with Croatia, good luck, man. Croatia is still a very good team.
Their golden era is over though.
Oh, for
Everyone
sure. Luka Modric is what, 39 now?
Yeah, he's done. Unless players can play into their 40s, like Ronaldo. Like, I mean, wouldn't anyone think that he's going to go for one more run in the United States?
Say that again?
I mean, I would think because of the longevity that Ronaldo has, I would think that he has one more World Cup in him. Same with Messi.
100%. That's why he's still playing.
Yeah, he wants that US exposure. And there's an insane amount of demand for him.
That if that's the thing, if you wanted the U.S. exposure, Ronaldo should have came to Major League Soccer instead of Saudi Arabia.
Why did he do that? Yeah,
because Saudi Arabia paid him $200 million to be there.
I know, but Messi.
And what's funny is he lives in Dubai. He doesn't even live in Saudi Arabia. He lives in the United Arab Emirates, and then he helicopters in for training.
That's not bad.
But that's the thing. Messi came to the United States because he was also paid the bag as well too. And his salary is essentially paid by sponsorship, right? Because there's no way that he was getting I think he signed a $50 million deal. But at the end
Miami
of the year,
must have negotiated something.
At the end of the year, his gross intake from this deal is like $150 million.
Inter Miami also has they also have Suarez.
Well, right, yeah, but that's the thing. It's like that deal was facilitated through sponsorship, and it's also good for Messi's brand, right? The Messi brand, being in America, unlocks so many different doors, and you would think that because Cristiano Ronaldo is very tied to his persona, his celebrity persona, and you would think that it would be on brand for him to be here, but he took the Saudi money.
When he could have he probably could have gotten just as much on outside money if he just went to the United States. But correct. He also he also loves helicopters, I guess. Man, he lives in Dubai.
The crazy thing though is that that's Messi when Messi played in the Copa America this last summer, there was a lot of talk that was going to be his last major tournament, but he still hasn't announced whether or not he's fully retired from the national team, and you would think that 2026 is something that he wants to be a part of.
I would think that maybe.
And Ronaldo 100% is going to be around for 2026.
But I think he would be a reserve player. I don't think he's going to be a starter though.
Depends on if their manager has the nuts to tell him that, because he's still starting right now. Ronaldo is still a starter for Portugal.
I mean, the last manager from the 2022 World Cup had the nuts to not even play him in the quarterfinals. Or was it the 16? I think it was the 16 against Switzerland.
Yeah, Ronaldo started every game of the Copa America, not the Euros this last summer.
And we're going into minute 60. Korea's got to find a way to score. I mean, I do not want to leave this match on a tie, because they are neck and neck with Iraq right now.
Yeah, and it looks like South Korea is cycling the ball well. They're trying to find their way in.
Yeah, they're trying to play a little bit more on the offensive side because they realize, oh crap, we can't park the bus anymore.
Well, they conceded, but they actually have right there their center attacker is not being marked, and now he is. But
and here is nope, it's going out of bounds. Korea is going to be Ghana. Wait, what are you talking about? I don't get it. And the other thing is, I didn't know that Inter Miami also had Suarez.
Yeah, they have Suarez.
I was hoping, I delusionally wanted the Sounders to go get him, because Suarez is actually, so out of the big three from Barcelona at the time, my favorite out of all of them was Suarez was actually my favorite out of the three.
Yeah, but Suarez, that's the thing. It's like, first and foremost, Seattle is not going to pay Suarez to come to Seattle. That's the first thing. But the other thing is Suarez probably wouldn't come to Seattle anyway.
Yeah, he'd rather get the short plane ride, and wants to play with his friend Messi.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, but the days of Seattle getting high profile players like
Clint Dempsey was a high profile.
Obafemi Martins and Clint Dempsey and Nico Ladero, those days are over, man. Seattle is just not going to do it, man.
I guess 2010 must have been Seattle's golden decade. The Seahawks.
Yeah. 2016 through 2020 was the
golden era.
5 years, that 5 year stretch where they went to 4 MLS Cup finals in 5 years, winning 2. Yeah, those days are well over. But here's the weird thing: the Sounders themselves right now are sitting in 3rd place, so they're they had a very good season. But that being said, the question is like whether the Sounders are built for the season or a playoff. And it's like depending on if they get like who they get in the first round is going to be depending on what they're how they're going to play the rest of the playoffs. And if they get Colorado in the first round, it's like. Speaking of which, I think this Saturday I'm doing a Sounders Timbers live stream, the decision day live stream, Sounders Timbers. So, yeah.
I'm also thinking of going to Brazil for the 27 Women's World Cup. That would be another World Cup to go. And they also expanded to 32, so it's good to see that the women's sports competition is growing.
Yeah.
Just like as if the WNBA has been growing, they've been able to expand as they actually were used to be at 14 as much as 16, but then several teams folded like Houston and Sacramento.
Right.
Sacramento is the one that hits me most because I have family in Sacramento. I know that they probably didn't care, but I cared. And someone did fall as we're at 63 minutes into this game so far. The women's Korean soccer team sucks so bad. That is 100% true. Don't even remind me. It was a miracle that they even.
So I didn't know you were a. I had to get a better stream. I didn't know that you were a fan of the women's game.
Anything with soccer and the word "world" in it, I will watch.
Are you a fan of the U.S. women's national team or?
Nah, I never really cared about them that much. I mean, they're the powerhouse, so it's like there's. But I will say my most favorite play in U.S. World Cup history was Megan Rapinoe's assist to Abby Wambach. That was the most insane. Now, people can say whatever they want about Megan Rapinoe, and I have my opinions too, and I'm not going to expose them, but you guys probably have the idea. But her assist was absolutely insane. Like, it was... She passed it from nearly half field and got it perfectly to Abby Wambach for the equalizer against Brazil. And Brazil was supposed to win that game. And I even remember... I even woke up in the morning to watch the 2007 games in China. I didn't watch the Brazil one, though, because that was embarrassing. I mean, I didn't know that was going to happen, but let's bench Hope Solo for Brianna Scurry, who was already washed up. Let's do that. Great decision.
Yeah. I tried to watch a little bit of this Olympic tournament this summer. I just couldn't. Yeah, I can't do women's soccer. I can appreciate the skill, but it just does not have the same pace. It just doesn't hit right for me. I got people asking if I would cover the NWSL, like do an NWSL live stream, and I'm like, dude, I can't do women's soccer, man. I don't watch the rain. It's like I watch the Sounders, but
I've actually been trying to get a friend of mine to join me because I wanted to do some Seattle Storm content now. Do I expect it to be like part of my flagship of my content? No, of course not. It's just something where I can give another guy an opportunity to get some exposure on YouTube.
Sure.
Because he does have a successful Patreon so far. But at the same time, I also want to help. He said he wanted to do a YouTube channel for Storm, and I was always trying to help him, but he's buried in his Patreon.
As soon as I get to somewhere around 500 subs, I'll do a Patreon, because at that point I can monetize it on YouTube. But that being said, it's like I don't see the need to do a Patreon right now when I'm still trying to grow the YouTube.
You gotta grow.
Yeah, once I grab enough subs, and then I can accurately advertise for a Patreon show, then I'll do one. But
I mean, I'm in the development of building my Patreon right now, and there's a lot I want to do with it because there's a lot more I can do with a Patreon than I can do on YouTube.
What's the well, you can also make money on it, but what's your subs right now?
Right now I'm closing in on 2,100.
There you go. So yeah, I have the
base.
You have the base in order to do a Patreon, yeah, for sure.
And nothing much going on in this game. It seems that no one is really on the track to score.
Correct.
But that defensive meltdown really just bothers me from that bicycle kick of a goal. Like it just stings.
Yeah, it's a terrible stream. Let's go back to that first one. There we go.
Yeah, this stream isn't great either. Either the servers are really bad, or I don't have the Wi-Fi, but I have the best Wi-Fi on the market, so.
Right, I have pretty good Wi-Fi too. Come on. There we go. And now we're back. All right, yeah.
At least by World Cup, I can use YouTube TV, so I'll be okay by then.
Yeah. It's interesting though, right? It seems like South Korea is I wouldn't say they're not trying to be aggressive on the attack, but they're also, when I look at it, they're just not getting numbers forward right now.
No, nothing's really happening.
Correct.
And it seems they may be content for a tie, which I wouldn't. Like, what I want to do is qualify as soon as possible. So when you get to the points where it doesn't really matter, then you can experiment all the young players. But nope, they won't do that.
There we go.
Like after Korea qualified for the 2022 World Cup with breathing room, like they still had another game to go, but they were already qualified. They still played Son. It was against Iran when you didn't really have a chance to beat them. And it was like, and they really wanted to get that first seed, but I didn't think seeding really matters that much. I mean, Iran, I think, got a tougher group than what South Korea got. Or well, you can measure that. Like, which group do you think was tougher between United States and South Korea? South Korea had Portugal, Uruguay, and Ghana. United States had Wales, Iran, and England. Who got the tougher end of that stick?
The United States, 100%. 100%. I mean, when you have England and Wales, and by the way, I also thought Wales had a tough draw as well too. But if I'm the United States, say the South Korea group again?
After this corner kick, which Iraq is about to do, and they do have an opportunity.
By the way, so in 1950, the United States pulled off the biggest upset in World Cup history when they beat England 1-0. Okay.
Now here's a kick, and that is nope. Korea's got it now, and looks like they were on the attacking end, and looks like nope.
Yeah.
And there was a header by Korea, and looks like there's a foul. 1950 they beat England, but then they lost out of the first round.
Right, but since that 1950, they have played England 6 times in the World Cup. Okay, and the United States leads that series, 1 win, no losses, 5 draws.
One of them you can credit Robert Green off that Clint Dempsey.
I love how the English love to take pot shots at the U.S. about how we're not good in football, yada yada yada, or taking digs at Christian Pulisic because he failed at Chelsea, but he really didn't. But it's funny because every single time that I hear that from some of my English friends, they're like, "Well, the United States, they're just who are they?" And it's like, "Well, we're the team that you haven't beaten the World Cup. That's who we are." Hey, so tell me the group stage again for 2022 with South Korea.
And now here's a free kick, and I thought there was a chance. Actually, who would have had a tougher group between actually Iran and South Korea? So Iran had United States, England, and Wales. South Korea had Uruguay, Portugal, and Ghana.
Who had a tougher?
Yeah, who had it tougher?
South Korea.
Yeah, they had to go Uruguay,
Portugal, and who else?
Ghana.
Yeah, that South Korea by far had the tougher draw. But yeah, but also let's understand it's Iran, right? So Iran's a decent footballing nation. They have a decent national team, but are they better than the United States, Wales, or
no?
England? Not even close. Not even close. So I guess from that aspect, yes, like Iran probably had the tougher draw, but I actually think that for South Korea, like
they had a tougher draw.
They're the more competitive team that can actually give those other three nations a little bit more of a test. But yeah, that's a hard group to get out of.
I also noticed that South Korea has they actually compete well against the Europeans, but it's the South Americans and the African teams they have a hard time keeping up with.
Yeah.
But Europeans, they at least give them a run for their money, but South America and Africa, they're just lost. Like South Korea versus Algeria was the worst game I ever saw in my World Cup life.
Well, the crazy thing is because European teams are a little bit more open, right? They're a little bit more attacking central, so it allows a team like South Korea to get into the flow of the game and actually be a little bit more dangerous versus South American teams, depending on the nation, and especially African nations. What they'll do is they'll literally just sit in the low block all game long and then try to pop you on the counter. So for a team like South Korea who wants to get on the front foot, who wants to stay on the front foot, stay in possession, they get boggled up because they can't break down a low block. They don't necessarily have the front, the front attackers that can actually get in behind a low block. Not to mention South Korea doesn't nearly play enough balls over the top. And that's even with Sonny.
73 minutes in, and not much activity is going on.
I'm a big fan of Son Heung-min.
Everyone is.
Of course I am, because I'm a Spurs guy. So
the crazy thing is, people like, who do you think's better player, Son or Harry Kane's? Like, nah, it's Harry Kane.
Harry Kane, of course, but
and now here is an attacking opportunity for Korea, and here's number 11. He's probably going for the cross, and here is the cross, and here's another cross, and here is the goal for Korea, and they have taken the lead to make it 2-1. It was about 2 crosses, and now they finally scored.
Yeah, so the play is down the left side, and that was a good ball in. The first ball in, and then of course the play back, and then obviously he's sitting there literally wide open right at the top of the 6-yard box. And if you're Iraq, the 2 goals Korea scored, it's been unmarked attackers right there at the top of the 6-yard box. But that was a great goal for Korea at a time where they absolutely needed a goal.
And that was off of their substitute.
Yeah, like the first ball in was decent, but it was that second effort play to keep possession within the box, and then of course he distributes right to the gentleman right there at the top of the 6-yard box, and that was a very good strike right there, taking advantage. Like when I look at this play, originally it was good. So you had the attack down the left flank. He moves it in, gets it over. There's the second chance effort, puts the pass, beautiful goal. That was, by the way, an absolute huge goal from South Korea right there. And now because we're like in the 75th minute, I would not be upset if South Korea parked the bus at this point right now. I would have no problem, because now you're in a position where you can actually ice this game with good defense.
Maybe give it another 10 more minutes. And now here's another opportunity for Korea. And now here's another cross and another possible goal. No, but it was a close. And here's another opportunity. And no.
I like how South Korea is still trying to press, though.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm okay with it too. But I would like it was a good. Oh,
it was that close.
South Korea that was a good ball. That was a good ball into the box to the left, onto the far post right there. But look at Iraq. They're not trying to concede. But what I was saying though is I wouldn't have a problem if South Korea decided to park the bus here to protect the 1-goal lead. We're in the 75th minute. We're only 15 minutes away from the from stoppage time. I wouldn't not have a problem if they decided to do that. But it looks like Korea is on the attack, man. I appreciate that.
They need to do the attack. I'm starting to think that I'm starting to think that maybe Hong Myung-bo was thinking about the time against Russia when after they scored the goal in the 2014 World Cup, he parked the bus and they can see the goal within 5 minutes.
Well, the only problem with staying on the front foot this late into the game is you're worried about whether or not Iraq can pop you on the counter and equalize. That would be the only concern, but it looks like Iraq won the ball right there. But then, of course, he boots it forward. Iraq with possession here.
Yep. And
South Korea gets the ball back.
And they're still on the attacking end. My play-by-play for soccer games definitely need work.
There's
definitely not at the same level of baseball or even football. Even football I need work.
South Korea now with possession.
And they still have it. No. And is it going to go out? No, it doesn't go out. Nope, it went out of bounds.
Down the left. Yeah, like when I do live streams, I usually don't do play-by-play. I usually talk with chat room, chat. I usually talk with chat, or I'll talk about conversational pieces. And it's not because I can't do the play-by-play. It's just I have the game going on the screen anyway, so you can just sit there and watch. So
I'm like, no, I gotta call it. I gotta call it like it's a radio.
Yeah.
Because
I know.
Because I'm providing a service.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing, right?
You are, but you took you took shortcuts for that.
No, not really. That's the thing. It's like if you're going to do a live stream, then stream it, right? My philosophy on this is very simple, right? If I pay for something, it's mine. That's simple. So
yeah, but then they'll argue it as you're paying rental for a mortgage, basically. That's what their philosophy is.
But my philosophy supersedes that because it's my YouTube channel, right? Now, what YouTube can do is stop me from doing it. That's fine. Then what I'll do is I'll go to the Patreon side.
Oh, there's Patreon, yeah.
Yeah. And then I can charge $2.99, for the match, and make some cold hard cash.
You got grinding to do.
Yeah, I know. But that's the thing. It's like that would be my alternative. If YouTube says, sorry, you can't, then I'll do the Patreon thing. But until then,
The crazy thing about FIFA, they won't even let me use their game footage. That's how strict FIFA is. Like I couldn't even use even old footages that I used from 2002 and even in 14 and 10, they still tracked it down unless I use maybe 2 seconds.
I can't wait for the 2026 World Cup, and I'm going to live stream U.S. men's national team games on the World Cup, and it's going to be my only worry is if I get 25,000 views or something like that, you know what I mean? That was my concern with this last one against Panama. I ended up getting 10,000 views, and I was like, oh man, that's a lot of traffic.
I mean, you did give them you gave them the service.
Considering the last two friendlies against Canada and New Zealand, I got 150 live views. You know what I mean? But I ended up getting a lot of traffic from Panama, by the way. A lot of Panama.
I'm really curious about what my traffic is going to be. So let's say I average getting 1,000 subscribers a year. So maybe I'll be about 4,000 or 5,000, hopefully a lot more than that. I'll be curious what my demands and what the demand's going to be for my channel to do a World Cup match for South Korea.
Yeah, but you know what I like about these live streams is I get sub bumps every single time I do one because I'm doing something that's far unique from what other YouTubers are doing. They're not, I'm actually showing the game, so.
And as of now, I'm actually the only Mariners YouTuber that actually does the play-by-play. Like Mojo, they do post games because it works for them.
Sure.
Couch, I think Couch mostly does long form, and whenever he goes live, he actually has an actual legitimate guest.
I like
Northwest Sports Fanatics. They are another one, but no hard feelings on them.
I actually like what you do, right? So you do the play-by-play on Mariner games. That's incredibly unique. But the thing about it is you're not specifically a Mariners YouTube. You do a lot of Mariner content because obviously in the baseball season, that's pretty much it. But you do Seahawks. I don't know if you're going to do Sounders, or I don't know if you're going to do or Kraken.
I won't do Kraken. No, hockey
Kraken,
is
Sounders.
Not. Nah. I look at them more casual though. It's like just as a place where I can enjoy something and not care about scores. Because like Seahawks, possibly the Sonics.
But you're missing out on a branch of Seattle sports though, because if you did a Kraken, like I would actually think that you should try a Kraken game, a live stream once, just one, right? Because I actually think that you're going to end up.
And now here is Korea with an opportunity, and they're going for a cross, and here it is, and here's a header, and that is in for the goal, and that's gonna be 3-1 Korea lead. And this game is pretty much that might just be the dagger right there.
Oh well, the second goal was the dagger, but that's the thing is Iraq. Credit South Korea because they're making Iraq run, and that was a good move to get the ball in, header, bang, unmarked. And that's the thing. It's like Iraq, you can see it in their form. Iraq just has run out of steam. Like early in the game, they wouldn't have allowed, that to go unmarked. The last two goals came from unmarked attackers. You can tell that Iraq has ran out of steam to the point where they just, South Korea just kept the pedal to the floor.
And now they can,
that was a great goal.
That was. Now, the only thing they got to do for me is have Korea play one of my favorite growing prospects. His name was Lee Sung-woo. He was actually on Barcelona's youth team back in his teenage days.
That was such a good ball in. I'm watching the replay. That was right on the money, and he hit the guy. He hit the guy right in stride, and he put a good head on that ball. I'm going to say, I think this is probably the most impressive game I ever saw out of Hongmyeonbo coaching. I'll tell you what, man. I was impressed with South Korea, man. They didn't park the bus. They continued to go after it. They were not afraid of the Iraqi counterattack. I gotta give South Korea credit, man. This was a good win this is going to be a good win for them. Yeah, because the other few games they were being criticized, but this one they're actually playing pretty well. So tell me about this South Korean youth who played for the Barca B. He went up to Barca B. He was mostly in the Barcelona youth, but then a club from Italy paid him a pretty decent amount, I guess. But then his experience there was awful. He was actually claiming racism. But hey, I think this kid didn't even look up the history between the beef of South Korea and Italy because of 2002. His name was Lee Sung-woo. How to spell it? Lee Sung-woo? I'll put it in the chat. All right. I'm going to look him up. But yeah, he played in the Italy league, which I was actually heavily against it because I knew he was going to get unless you're Kim and Jae, usually Korean players in Italy don't really last long. There it is. Lee Sung-woo. Yeah, he was my favorite prospect. I want to see what his... Here we go. He's let's see. He plays for Jeonbuk of the K League. K League. Yeah, Jeonbuk. The Hyundai Motors Jeonbuk. Cheongbuk. I think it's Cheongbuk. That's how I. Yeah, he came up with Daedong ES. Then he went to Incheon Youth, and then he goes to the Barca Youth. He goes to the U16s, the U18s, the U19s. Graduates from Barca B, goes to Hellas Verona in Serie A, and then he looks like he went to the Belgian Super Leagues. Sint-Truiden. Then he went to Portugal. went back to St. Truden, and then he was without a club there for a minute, and then he went back to South Korea.
Yeah. It's pretty unfortunate how it turned out. He was actually hyped to be the Korean Messi back then. Like,
well, and the crazy thing is he's still only 26.
I know. And hopefully he'll get a chance, but unfortunately it looks like he won't get a chance for today, because I think that today was probably one of those. I mean, when you're playing Iraq, who's also right on your tail, this was probably too much of a must-win kind of game, but yet they did give... Oh, here it is! He's here! Lee Sung-woo is now in the game.
Well, how about... So I'm looking at the Asian qualifiers for the World Cup, and it looks like in...
and he is met with a huge amount of standing ovation. He's actually a loved figure in South Korea.
There he is right there, coming on the field.
He actually got a surprising call-up for the 2018 World Cup, and he at least had a shot on target against Sweden.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the standings right now. In the third round, Group A, it looks like Uzbekistan and Iran are at the top of the table with 7 points. Looks like UAB and Qatar with 4, North Korea with 2, and then Kyrgyzstan has no points whatsoever. In Group B, with this win tonight, it'll put South Korea at the top of the table with 13 points. Iraq will still be with 7. Jordan has
10 points.
4 points.
10 points.
Oh, if they win, it's going to be 10. I thought they were already on 10.
No, they were at 7.
Okay, so they're going to be at the top with 10. And then you have Oman with 3, Kuwait with 2, and then Palestine with 1. Japan leads Group C with 10, Australia with 5, Saudi with 4, Bahrain with 4, Indonesia and China with 3. So it's the top 2 from each group that moves on, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So South
The
Korea
top
will
2.
move on. Yeah. So South Korea will easily move on.
Well, they they have to try really, really hard not to make it.
Yeah, they're in by the way, they're in what I would consider a very weak group.
It is a weak group.
With Iraq being the only the only other side that has a heartbeat. Jordan, Oman, Kuwait, and Palestine. South Korea, you're absolutely right. South Korea would absolutely need to try hard not to advance out of that group.
It would be at unprecedented levels if they ever got to that position, but let's hope we don't get into that.
If they right. I mean, for whatever reason, if they don't, that's gonna be tough times there for the Korean FA. But it looks like South Korea is going to be able to advance. I'm surprised that the North Koreans, can't.
I'm a little bit surprised by North Korea, but North Korea had their problem. They actually had a rising star. I forgot what his name was. There was actually a huge video about him, but unfortunately there was issues with, North Korean government has issues with how North Korean players can travel. So I think there was a little bit of a dispute on that.
Does North Korean government allow their players to go to different leagues around the world, or is
very rare?
Or is there like an embargo where they make them stay in the North Korean league? Like I would think that in that context, right? Like I'll give you a good example. Like I know this is a different sport, but when Yao Ming came to the United States, the Chinese government will not let him go unless the government got a piece of his contract. You know what I mean? Like,
and they did, yeah.
And I think the Chinese government got like 3% of his contract, right? So I would probably assume that if there's a good player in North Korea that wants to leave, I would probably assume that the North Korean government would allow him, but they would take a big piece of his contract.
Yeah, North Korea, they'll be lucky to get into the fourth round. Like North Korea is not what they used to be. Actually, surprisingly, one of their best days was actually when they made it to the 2010 World Cup, and there was a point where everyone thought that they were going to be dark horses after that 2-1 narrow loss to Brazil, and then Portugal's like, nah, 7-0.
Well, right. Yeah, it looks like North Korea right now is sitting in 5th in Group A. They lost their first one, and then they have 2 draws. They've only scored 3 goals through 3 matches and conceded 4, so they got a -1 goal differential. But when you're getting smashed up by teams like Qatar and the UAB. It's like you can understand like Iran's a pretty solid team, but then you have Uzbekistan, and it's like, dude, North Korea can't, they can't handle their business against, Qatar and UAB.
It's like, don't even bother.
Don't even bother.
Oh no, here's Iraq who. Oh, so they're forcing a corner.
It looks like we're in stoppage time right now. 6 minutes of stoppage time. Korea's got the 2-goal lead. This thing is pretty much well wrapped up, unless Iraq and.
So North Korea's star was Han Kwang-sung. He was born in Pyongyang. He actually had a time with the Juventus.
Okay.
But then there was some little bit of issues, I guess, with travel, of course. But Italy had pretty close ties to North Korea in a surprising sense, so it shouldn't have been a problem, but
yeah.
Well, anything with North Korea is always complicated.
Well, the North Korean government don't want their people to travel to realize that there's better outside. They don't want it. They're hell bent on keeping their people inside the scope of their country, and it's like, dude, it's
From what I heard, there was a player named Chung Dae-se. He actually played for the North Korea team, but his circumstance was different because he actually was born in Japan, so he was technically a South Korean, but he went to North Korea for whatever reason, so the government couldn't really touch him at all.
Right. But you would think that it all depends on what their priorities are. If they want to be a part of the World Cup in that atmosphere, the North Koreans are gonna have to realize that their best players are gonna have to play up.
They have to.
Yeah.
Well, the best way for North Korea to get any better with soccer is if South Korea and North Korea ever come to a reunification. But here's the thing: we may be dead by the time that even gets into conversation.
Sure. But also, how about friendlies between North Korea and South Korea? Right? Allow the South Koreans to come north for a friendly, and then vice versa. You know what I mean? Like
they already did that for qualifiers.
Okay.
They played each other on qualifiers and friendlies, and I heard that the game between South Korea and North Korea in Pyongyang, Son Heung-min said that was the scariest game he ever played.
I would imagine.
There was no crowd, which they should have. They should have let their people be there. It was World Cup qualifiers.
I was going to say, was it during COVID?
No, it was actually before COVID, but there was still no fans, so all you could hear was screaming and trash talking and a lot of colorful words. And I actually knew what they were saying too.
Well, I wonder why Kim Jong-un wouldn't allow fans to. He seems to
be a lot less slightly progressive than his father and his grandfather. At least they at least threw a bone to some of these North Koreans to do their thing.
I would think that.
Oh my God! Iraq just scored. They just closed the gap on a corner.
I would think, I'm about to check this out in just a second, but I would think that North Korea would want fans there as a country unifying event. You know what I mean? Oh boy, unmarked off that set piece right there, and yeah, that's but we're like what, in the 94th.
94, 95. I mean, yeah, people can say that, well, that was just a stoppage time goal, but that's also a reflection on Korea's defensive tactics, and that's why I'm not a fan of Hong Myung-bol, because he is not exactly tactical on defense.
You're looking at it right here. That was a good ball in, but he was left unmarked. As a matter of fact, two Iraqi players were literally standing right next to each other. Ball goes in, and South Korea is just standing around. They didn't even make an attempt to actually try to defend.
That's the problem. Like, they were winning 3-1, sure, but you still can't give up a goal like that. Like, now that just changed the trajectory of my possible post-game video. Like, I was gonna say, yeah, Korea actually played a good game. Yeah, gave up one oopsie goal, but now it's like, oh, but they just gave up 2 goals.
I actually think that they're still fine. There's not enough time for Iraq to level an equalizer, at least unless South Korea like completely falls apart within the next minute and a half. I still think they're going to hold on to get this one. But you still can make a good video post game. This was actually still a very good Korean win. I still think so.
Yeah, but it's just that
I think the Korean player. No, it's an Iraqi yellow card.
Yeah, it was Iraqi because he pushed him because he was just frustrated. And now Iraq is probably going to go for one last shot. And does Iraq have it?
Number 11 is just going to sit on the turf as long as possible to wind down clock.
And looks like, is that it? Nope. Oh, yep, I think that's it. Just double checking.
Good deed,
yep, that is it. The game has ended and South Korea has achieved a victory against Iraq.
There it is.
Yep, it's over.
Good win. Good win.
Very good win by South Korea, with the exception of giving up those 2 goals, which were pretty much done by errors of everyone lost they didn't have their marks.
Yeah, the thing about it is, it's like unless you're going to park the bus after up to there, like there's no excuse for allowing that goal right there in stoppage time. Like one of the things you have to do is, especially up to in a situation, you want to be tactically sound, and that means man marking, especially on set pieces. And South Korea fell asleep right there. But the good news is they built themselves a nice little 2-goal lead, so they were able to give up the one, but without giving up the equalizer. Outside of that, I thought South Korea played well, man. They were continuously on the front foot. They controlled possession, which was something that I was a little surprised by, because I thought Iraq was going to be a little bit more aggressive, but Iraq just seemed like they were okay without the ball. Like they were willing to sit back and defend, play in a low block. But credit to South Korea, man, because they dug, they found ways into the 6-yard box, and they were like, the first 2 goals were literally right at the top of the 6-yard box, unmarked at the top of the 6-yard box. But the other one was that nice little header across, all credit to South Korea, because they did exactly what they were supposed to do, and they found a way in and made Iraq pay. And so, from both sides, there were complete mental lapses, but it was just that Iraq, made the more costly mental lapses than South Korea. But there's a lot to take. If you're South Korea, there's a lot to take from this match as well too, because now you're sitting atop the group. But specifically when it comes to their training, they're gonna have to focus on defending set pieces. That's the first thing. But also it's also defending in front of your 6-yard box, because the first goal that Iraq scored was absolutely
it was inexcusable.
It was inexcusable. It was unnecessary.
It really was. Well, I'm actually just going to take off, but there was something I wish that you were there for. I'll show you I actually made my intro for this morning's game, or shall I say Korea's evening game, but here's the intro that I'm using going forward, unless, of course, I get copyrighted, because I did use the music from the 2002 World Cup, but here it is. And there's the intro. Yeah.
I like it.
As you can tell, that's a clip from every World Cup that they participated. 54, 86, 90, 94, 98, 02, 2006, 2010, 14, 18, 22, and then hopefully 26.
Wow. So that's the great thing that I like about South Korea is they've qualified for pretty much every single World Cup in my lifetime. 86, 90, 94, 98, 02, 06,
Oh six.
2010, 2014, 18, and 2022. That's that's the good news, right? It's the sign of a stable federation, right? At least you're qualifying, right? So there's no lapses in between cycles, right? So you look at Japan and there's lapses in those cycles. China.
Well, Japan's made it to everything since 98 though.
Right. So but I'm talking about like 86, 90, 94.
Yeah.
No dice, right? So at least South Korea's got that stable representation in the World Cup. That at least there's that for South Korea. And now it's like graduating to the next step, which is continuously getting out of the groups and then putting yourself in a position to be competitive in the knockout rounds. And that was the thing with the U.S. men's national team, right? They had always been able, like for the longest time, they couldn't qualify. After the 1950 World Cup, they didn't qualify for another 40 years until they got to 1990. But once they started getting back into the World Cup, then it was getting out of the groups. And then once they were an established getting out of the group team, then it's stalled because they can't get past the round of 16, right? They've only been able to do it once, and it was only because they placed Mexico in 2002, right? But outside of that, it's figuring out, making sure that you're still being able to develop that next wave. So eventually you can get to the point where you can clear that hurdle. And at least South Korea is at that stage. And now it's what is it going to take for them to get out of the group stages consistently, and then also make some noise in the round of 16. What is it South Korea is going to have to do to get to that point?
Well, before I get it going, this will be my closing statement, but what Korea has to do, first, I would hope that they're going to find a new coach, but they're not going to unless there is like some kind of disaster that happens, but I don't see it happening anytime soon. But until then, they got to find a way to fix their defense, because even before Korea conceded their goals, there were still some like heart attack moments there where Iraq had their opportunities. And the other thing I want to see, other than improving on their defense, because they do have the personnel to do it, it's just tactically bad. They got to experiment more on their young players. Like, you can't just ride with Son, which Korea had been doing for almost a decade at this point. They can't just keep riding him, because he'll be 34 by the next World Cup. And 22, he was playing with a broken face, basically. So they got to build depth with young talent, and they have the young talent. But they just, for some reason, they just get in their own way, because Korea and their cultural practices is notorious, unfortunately. And I'm Korean, I get to say it. They have problems with favoritism and seniority practices. It's been an issue that they've been having since the Dark Ages, when they had their entire land. They lost their entire land to China, almost their entire land, because of corruptional political practices. And that's what the KFA is unfortunately plagued with. If they ran exactly how they were supposed to, I could be complaining about them not being able to make it out of the quarterfinals.
Right.
But no, I have to be thankful that they qualify for the World Cup. But for the talent they have, they should be a regular round of 16 team. Well, I guess regular round of 32, which they should do on a regular basis, you would think. But it's the organization that gets themselves in the way. And that's the thing. Why is it that all of my favorite teams are plagued with bad organization runs? Like Seahawks.
That's a good
Seahawks
question.
had their problems with Ken Behring. Mariners have ownership problems now. The Sonics had ownership problems basically since Barry Ackerley.
Yeah, and it was those ownership issues that Howard Schultz ends up selling the Sonics down the river. I'll say this, right? And I think you touched on the best point, was the fact that they need to identify a coach that, number one, has absolutely no ties to the Korean FA. That's the first thing, right? But also a coach that knows how to get the best out of the current squad, right? I'll give you a good example. In 1991, the United States reached out and hired Bora Milutinovic, who coached the Mexican team in '86 that got them to a quarterfinal. And Bora's CV was that he was known for taking teams that necessarily didn't look good on paper and getting them punching above their weight. That was his reputation, and sure enough, we saw that in the '91 Gold Cup. We saw it in the '94 World Cup. Being able to take a team that shouldn't be able to compete on a world stage and then getting them punched above their weight. And I think that, because when I look at the South Korean team, I see talent. There's you're absolutely right about the defense, right? But that's what it comes down to coaching, is making sure that whatever defensive players that you have, that they stay organized and tactically sound for the full 90. Not for 45 minutes, not for 60 minutes, not for 70 minutes, and then you have an oopsie goal in stoppage time that you concede, because there's going to be a situation where you might come down to goal differential, and that might keep South Korea out, right? So every goal conceded is actually incredibly important, right? And I think, that's why I liked Jurgen Klinsmann. I thought Klinsmann was a good hire for them because he didn't have any ties to the Korean FA, and he has a style of play that actually suited Korea. And yet, I know one time you had a complaint where he was relying too heavily on Son and some of those guys, but yeah, that's the whole point, right? You're going to rely on the best players that you have in every tournament. Win, lose, or draw, you want to lose with your best players. You know what I mean? But I will concede that if South Korea has a good group of youngsters, they should be incorporated within the national team, and they should be getting national team minutes as well too. But I think, if you're going to stay with the status quo, getting a K-League level manager, then you deal with all the politics that surrounds the Korean FA. And then your national team isn't progressing, it's actually regressing or staying stagnant, which means you're not having any good player development. You know what I mean? Because you're going to be dealing with the politics of the K-League. Certain teams want certain players on the national team instead of using your better judgment. And I just think that ahead of the 2026 World Cup, if I were in charge of the Korean FA, I'd be looking for not the best name, but the best coach that has the CV, that knows how to get the best out of the talent that's available. That's, and you were talking about the current head coach, about his faults, and it's like, well, what's going to happen when it comes to major tournaments?
That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
Like at best with this team, I only see them as a round of 32. Even if they had the previous coach, Paulo Bento, it could have been a round of 16 team. Well, that's the thing. That would be crazy to think that round of 16 is now the new quarterfinals run, basically, unfortunately.
You know what would be a good name for South Korea? Bruce Arena. 72-year-old Bruce Arena, who is without a job right now. But when you look at his success on the international stage, head coach in 2002, head coach in 2006, has won trophies all over Major League Soccer. And he is a dude, at the very least, will get South Korea tactically organized. Now, the question is whether or not Bruce Arena is going to be able to be the guy to take you deep into a tournament. We don't know, because he's only done it twice. And of course, the debacle of 2017 couldn't get the U.S. team qualified for the 2018 World Cup. That had more to do with the ego and reputation of certain players, not necessarily Bruce Arena. But that being said, for a team like South Korea, at least you're to be tactically organized, or maybe even Bob Bradley, who is a defensive coach. He's a defensive first coach and then attacks on the counter. Like those type of coaches, who at the very least is going to make South Korea tactically organized, would be a coup.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately though, and thanks for those points, even though not a big fan of both of them, but we're unfortunately out of time. I got to get rolling for work. And Steve, thank you for being on this entire show and watching South Korea with a victory.
Tonight, 10:30 Eastern, U.S. versus Mexico rivalry match. I'll be streaming that live on Stateside Footy. You can go check me out on Twitter at Stateside Footy. It'll be posted in the Instagram as well too, at Stateside Footy 76, and of course on the YouTube channel as well too, at Stateside Footy. So check that out. It'll be posted on Facebook and the Twitter feed And of course, you can find me on YouTube as well too. This is a big rivalry game. Obviously, U.S. and Mexico basically says it all. So looking forward to that.
Yep, go ahead and give that a watch, and that will be it. And everyone, have a good morning, or if you're in South Korea, have a good evening. That'll be all.